Welcome everyone to Tales from the 90s. We are taking our fourth trip this week into 1992. This is episode number 24, by the way. We're going to be in December of 1992. Let's end this year on a bang.
Tales from the 90s never die. In our hearts they testify. VCRs and mixtape spins, where every tale begins. Tales from the crypt, marathons, wrestling wars and morning yawns. Play kickball in the street, man those days can't be beat. Tales from the 90s never die.
Yeah, like I said, our fourth trip into 1992. Our first trip there's our first one since back episode number 21. It's only 3 episodes ago. That was July's. But at this time I was 8, and then in this month, of course, my birthday, December 23rd, I turned 9. And I was in 3rd grade, and we had just moved to Norwood, Ohio not too long before this. I'll talk a little bit about that. But before I get started, I want to talk about some of my other stuff coming up. By the way, yeah, new setup here. I think this is the first video you'll be seeing this on because before this I recorded my karaoke video and then my Sunday testimonials video and the commercial portion of this. So this is actually the last thing I'm recording. I try to get it all done on a Monday usually, and then take the process of loading it onto my computer into my editor and then all that stuff. It's a process, but I enjoy doing it because I really enjoy what I'm doing. Definitely going forward, definitely doing a lot more of what I want to do and not what others think I should do or don't think I should do anymore, however the thing would go. Don't send me a private message about any of that because I ain't going to answer what I'm talking about just because. But if you do, trust me, I won't share it with people that aren't supposed to see it. I'll just leave that there too. But we're going to be getting into this. I want to talk about a few bonus things coming up. So I'm recording this on a Monday. It comes out Wednesday. But so that means when this comes out, the following Monday, March 31st to be exact, will be my bonus episode for the month. This one is WrestleMania Memories, Matches, and Moments. It's where I give some memories of not necessarily things that happen at the WrestleManias, but for me, like experiencing the WrestleManias. Then I'll go into a top 20, my own top 20 that I made. You okay? Chili's making noises in the background. My dog. One of them. Anyway, my top 20 matches where I rank my personal favorite matches. And then the top 20 moments, which some of them are matches, and there is some overlap with some of them. But the moments are more about those, actual moments that happen more than you remember, like, the match. And sometimes the moments can be multiple ones in a match or multiple moments. You'll see if you watch the episode. It's about 2 hours long. I've already recorded it, haven't edited it up yet, but it'll be there next week hopefully. And like I said, we got Friday night karaoke. This Friday I'm going to the Kid Rock concert. So excited about that. So on YouTube I can schedule it to upload. It'll be on there at 8. On Facebook, I can't unless I'm putting it on my podcast page, which is where you can find this. But for that, I put on my regular one, so look for that around like 2. And then my Sunday testimonials, where I do a couple Christian songs and a message video, that can be found on my regular Facebook and also on its own YouTube channel. Let me know if you want the link to that. Just started that one a few weeks ago. And then of course I've got some watch-alongs coming out. Did the very first Angry Grandpa video. I talked about that last week. I still haven't put that out one yet. I've been so busy. I've also got videos where I play video games, including my ongoing series where I play Sonic Adventure. I'll be doing Sonic Adventure 2 eventually once I get to that. But yeah, a lot of content and probably a lot more coming because I guess I'll just announce it here first. I haven't actually publicly addressed it yet, but I am walking away from the wrestling business after 10 years, and I won't go into any of the details or anything, but it's just it's a situation where I feel like I'm better off if I'm kind of out of wrestling. I've I'll be making some videos and some posts. Don't be looking for some tell-all thing. It's just posts about all the great times I've had and how much I miss everybody. But that'll be coming over the next couple weeks. Probably April 12th is probably my last show going to be for wrestling. But yeah, that's in the future. This week we're going to be talking about, if the frog get out of my throat. By the way, the new setup is basically just so I put it this way because I'm closer to the camera. You can hear me more when I'm doing my karaoke, and I kind of just leave it this way. It's easier to control the camera if I need to stop it for any reason. Before I had it on a tripod like farther out, and it was actually over this way. Well, I don't know which way you can see I'm pointing, but I'm pointing that way is where it was. Now the camera is like sitting here on my top of my Garth Brooks CDs that I got collected out here. Anyway, none of that matters. We're going back to December of 1992 when we didn't have this technology. We had those big, bulky cameras that you literally put a videotape in, and not just the small ones. I'm talking about the ones with the full-size VHS tape. But we're going to be talking about sports, and only one sport going on that I care about in the world during December, and that's football. Back at this time, when the season, started a little bit earlier, and they had one less game, the season actually ended in December, and playoffs had already started. Nowadays, you're still getting, the final weeks of NFL in the beginning of January. I believe the Super Bowl was like the second week of February this month or this year, I think. But like I said, the season was over. The Bengals were last in the AFC Central, going 5-11. This was the year we replaced Sam Weiss, the coach that took us to the Super Bowl. Replaced him with Dave Shula. If the name Shula stands out to you in football, but you really don't know, you're most likely thinking of Don Shula, probably the only one you've heard of. Famous coach of the Miami Dolphins. This was his son Dave Shula, and he was not, I wouldn't say famous, infamous. One of our worst coaches ever. One of the horrible time in Bengals history. And this tells you anything. The Bengals hired him. It was between him and Bill Cowher, and everybody knows Bill Cowher went on to the Steelers and dominated the Bengals during his run, and just one of the most hated people in Cincinnati just because he was the coach of the Steelers. I guarantee if we would have got him, we would have done a lot better, and definitely I think things would have been different. But the teams that did make the playoffs were the Dolphins, Bills, Steelers, Oilers, Chargers, and Chiefs from the AFC, and the Cowboys, Eagles, Redskins, Vikings, 49ers, and Saints from the NFC. And, of course, the Redskins would end up beating the Bills in the Super Bowl, but that would be next month. But, yeah, football season had ended, so, and at that time I really wasn't watching a lot of, sports on TV other than wrestling, because just, my dad watched a lot of it, and if I would have lived with him primarily, I would have been watching it more. It's just my mom really didn't watch it, and, I was more into watching cartoons and playing video game stuff then, so, not now, where, I'm watching every single game I can for the Bengals and for the Reds. But, speaking of video games, we'll go into that next. 1992, a huge year for video games. Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis were, like at the height of their battling. I actually have a few, not awards, I guess, but some of them were there. There's a bunch of, if you're looking up video games and like awards for like Game of the Year and stuff, there's a bunch of different publications and things that gave out the video games. So for some of these, I kind of picked the one that was picked by the most, because there was a few games that were, like, this is the game of the year. No, this is the game of the year. But the ones I picked won the majority of them. Game of the year, like, majority of everything was Street Fighter II. It was also the top grossing arcade game worldwide. Game system of the year was Super Nintendo. Sega Genesis has been out for like a year or so, maybe 2. They definitely got the jump on Nintendo, and then Super Nintendo was late coming in, but that also meant that they had more attention on them. Sega Genesis might have been first, but the Super Nintendo was, Nintendo was already popular anyway. The Super Nintendo, put them over them. The actual top-selling system of the year worldwide was Game Boy. Of course, the handheld Nintendo game or game system. But in the U.S., it was Super Nintendo was the number one selling system. So everywhere. Of course, Super Nintendo was known as the Super Famicom in Japan, and it had already been out like a year or two before here. So the Game Boy, was outselling that. But the best-selling game worldwide was a tie between Street Fighter II and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But for the month of December, the top-selling games of the month for regular Nintendo, because I call it regular Nintendo. I know most people just call it Nintendo or NES. But the top-selling game for that, because they were still selling games for that, was Tecmo Super Bowl. A lot of the games they were putting out for the original Nintendo were... They were putting out some games that were first party, but a lot of them were just the sports titles because, all the new Mario games and all the newer games they were putting on Super Nintendo. The publishing companies were putting all their money into making games for that generation because, the difference is in the graphics. Nintendo's 8-bit graphics, Super Nintendo's 16-bit graphics, so obviously it's doubled there. So they were putting all their effort into the newer games, but so that meant a lot of sports games also went to the older system because they were just a lot cheaper and a lot easier to produce. But for Super Nintendo, the top selling game for December was Street Fighter II, and for Sega Genesis it was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Of course, Sonic, the first Sonic was a huge hit, and the second one just was even bigger. Super Mario Land 2 was the top selling game for Game Boy. And, next week I'll be talking a little more about the original Nintendo. I'll tell you why when we get to the end of the episode, but definitely, I never owned a Super Nintendo until I was an adult, until I bought one secondhand, and same with the Sega Genesis until I was like, I think I got one when I was like 15 or 16. It was the Sega Genesis 3, like the third version of it. My mom and my stepdad Steve got it for me. And I moved down to VV and was playing a lot of that, and I found a lot of they're still selling the games at the local video store. They still had a few Sega Genesis games, so I bought a bunch of those. But definitely a different time, video games and video stores, and just not the same anymore, for better or for worse. I come from the generation where you get games and you can rent them from a video store. Today's generation, you buy games online and you have to download and buy other packs to get the full games. Just doing these, you really see the movement of time. Like you'll see later on, I already did the commercials. Like I said, the commercial part of this, you'll see some of the technology that was for sale around Christmas that you now have that plus 100 other things on your little phone that does everything. You'll see what I'm talking about when I get to that. But like I mentioned, we had moved to Norwood. That's where I spent not the majority of my childhood, but the majority of my formative years of the 90s. Pretty much the majority of the 90s I did spend in Norwood. Or at least it felt that way. But we had just moved there. That was... we moved to the last house in Norwood, and eventually we would move next door to the second to last house. But literally the house next to us not only was considered in a different, I think it's Bond Hill is what it's called, different neighborhood, but it actually was, the street name literally changed right there. So it's strange how that, the one street flows, like you don't see that everywhere else. I get the end of a neighborhood, like an invisible line, but the street name changing, that's just weird. But yeah, we grew up there, 5720 Section Avenue. Still remember the address. And of course we moved in with, it was at the time was me, my brother Josh, who is 5 years younger, 4.5 years younger than me, and then my brother Travis was he wasn't even 2 yet. He was like 1.5, I think. But my mom and then our new stepdad Steve, who they eventually got married. I can't remember when they got married, actually. I don't have a recollection of that. I don't seem to remember them getting married. Like, I know they got married. It's funny how things just hit you all of a sudden. Like I'm trying to remember, was there a wedding? Did I go to it? But yeah, I blocked it out. If you heard some of my other stories, yeah. My stepdad was, we called him Markie Foe, was definitely abusive. At this time he wasn't. He was playing old Mr. Nice Stepdad. If you ever seen the Stepdad movies, it was almost as bad as that, minus the murdering, but I'm sure that would have definitely came later on. I'm not even joking there. But yeah, it was a rough time though, because you transition schools, especially in 3rd grade, and I'd only been at the school I'd been at for not too long, so it wasn't as bad as transition as it would have been for somebody that had been kindergarten through 3rd at a school. I believe I was in kindergarten in one school in Kentucky, and then we moved away from there. And then I believe I was at another school when we lived with my granny. So I was probably only at the school for like a year. But, it's still, but that sometimes can make it tougher when you're moving to all these different schools. This had been my 4th school when I'm just in 3rd grade. So, it was a wonder why I would act like an idiot in school trying to get noticed, basically, trying to get friends. I don't know why I thought acting like an idiot. And, in school you're either quiet, you just naturally can make friends, or you act like a freaking class clown idiot. In fact, that was one of my favorite little kids' books. I hadn't thought of that till now. It was a book called Class Clown. I'll look it up next week maybe and see if I can find the author of it. I haven't read that one since I was in elementary school. But yeah, I was definitely the class clown. Like I said, things at home had started out all right at this time. Christmases were always great. We went to Granny's house. I remember that was that was the first Christmas that Markie Foe met Granny and was there for Christmas. And Granny made this salad. Like, I didn't appreciate it at the time because I thought it was weird because I never even tried it. But she made it with Miracle Whip, which I always grew up with Miracle Whip being like mayonnaise. I knew it wasn't the same, but using it like mayonnaise. I didn't realize till later on it was literally, and probably a lot of people don't think of this, is it's actually first use, it says salad dressing at first. And she actually uses it as a salad dressing. And I always thought, I don't want mayonnaise in my salad. First of all, I wouldn't eat salads in anyway. I was freaking, I remember riding with my mom, going to Granny's house with a bucket of chicken, and she made a mistake the first time of letting me sit in the back with the bucket of chicken. I'm not joking you. We got there. I had ate all the skin off of every single piece of chicken. I got my butt whooped so bad, and I deserved every spanking I got from that. But yeah, I said I wouldn't eat too many salads. But Markie Foe ate like 3 or 4 bowls of salad and everything else for Christmas. Of course, we were sitting at the kids' table. They had like this small little kids' table. I remember it was a square table, and it had 4 plates of like glass that go into like these sections. Like, it was a square table and 4 squares of glass and kind of in the middle. Like, I guess they came out so you could clean them. But I remember that was the little kids' table. Me and Josh were there. Travis, I don't know, was in a high chair. Like I said, he was like close to 2. I don't remember if he was in the high chair or still. But my cousins were there. And, we're goofing off at the kids' table. They're eating up there. I look over. Next thing I know, he's sitting there literally messing with something. And my mom's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm making room." And he literally unbuttons his pants sitting there at the freaking table. Like, he ate so much salad, he had no more room in his pants, and he had to just, right in front of everybody, open his pants up and just sat there like, oh boy. Like, as a kid, I didn't realize it was such an embarrassing thing, but it's still, we were all laughing. just so stupid. But it was also during this time that, I still had, I don't know if access is the right word, but access to my dad. I've told the story before of how Markie Foe got drunk at some point later on, and like my dad had come over to babysit a lot. I don't know if he had done it at this time, because we had just moved there. But my dad had come over to babysit a lot, just to be able to spend time with me. And of course, he knew Josh. But I've told the story before how Markie Foe was drunk, and then they basically didn't get into a fist fight, but almost. A comedy of errors. My dad was like going nuts, like, you can't keep me from my son, which he eventually did. I didn't get to see him after that fight until literally, what was that? That fight had to have been in '93, and I didn't see him for another 6 years, literally till my Uncle Dan died in 1999. Not trying to bring this podcast down. I got just depressed thinking about that. But anyway, I was still, I'm pretty sure I got to go visit them at this time too. By this time, my grandma Lois had been dead, and my grandpa for like a year or so, and my grandpa Wally had moved into a smaller house, really close to where they lived originally. They lived in Price Hill. It was like not even a half a block, I don't think, away. I mean, you could see the two places from each other. But he'd moved in there, and my dad was there sometimes, but he was also starting to live more down in Vevey, Indiana, where my sisters had lived. Because I have, one of them's passed away, but I have 3 sisters. Well, I have 2 sisters from my mom, but I've got 3 sisters from my dad that he'd had before him and my mom met. So he'd had him with them with somebody else, and they were obviously older than me. But my sister Jody, I remember going to her wedding. My first time I'd ever been to Vevey. The only thing I remember about it is seeing the IGA store, because I'd not seen an IGA store. And down, if you know Vevey, Indiana, there's an IGA store still there. I mean, it's been called different things over the years, like Super Value, but it's back to being IGA now. Anyway, I remember going to her wedding. My dad wearing this like brown suit, like suit jacket. I don't know if he had a whole suit on, but he had like a suit jacket. Anyway, yeah, my Uncle Dan lived there with Grandpa Wally after Grandma Lois died, and whenever I get to that month in 1991, I'm definitely going to pay tribute to her. Same with my Uncle Dan. I'll talk about him in 1999, about him passing away, and also it being leading to reconnecting with my dad. But just a lot of memories, and sorry if you're joining this podcast like, why are we hearing about this guy's family? Make your own video, tell your own story. I'll watch it. It's cool to learn about other people's stories. But get back into stuff that everybody can appreciate. Music, although my favorite music is country music, so I focus on that. But I always like to give the number 1 songs for Billboard, and this one's a big one. It's the I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. Growing up a country fan, you would think, oh, you're going to say Dolly Parton is the first one you heard, but actually it's not, because I never heard that version. I'd heard my favorite version of the I Will Always Love You is Vince Gill's duet with Dolly Parton on that. That's my favorite version of that. But I actually like the Whitney Houston version. I like the Dolly Parton version too. It's a great song, and if you look up the history of why Dolly wrote it and everything, it's a fascinating story. But I mean, this was a massive song. It was off the Bodyguard soundtrack, the movie she was in. It was number 1 already 1 week before in November. It went number 1 all 4 weeks in December, and then would go into the next year for 9 more weeks, a total of 14 weeks straight at number 1. Which, if you follow my podcast and you follow pop music from that time, that's definitely nothing strange to have a multiple week run at number 1, but still 14 weeks in a row is impressive. Country Countdown is where there's a lot of competitiveness, and it's really hard to get multiple week number 1s. One song that started out that I thought would have been number one forever was only number one for 2 weeks, and that was George Strait, "I Cross My Heart." Of course, one of his all-time greatest love songs from the Pure Country soundtrack and movie he was in. It's the song he plays at the end when he reveals that he's just like the superstar singer to this girl that he'd met. Like he took off from the road because I've talked about this movie before, but if you haven't seen it, he's a country singer, George Strait, and he plays Dusty. So he's not playing himself basically, but he's tired of all the lights and the spectacles and just wants to play music, and he's tired of the whole life. So he just basically takes off one day and goes to this small town and meets this girl and falls in love with her, and then she ends up finding out at the end that he's this like famous country singer. It's a great movie, but yeah, that song went to number one for 2 weeks, and then for only 1 week, which it was a big song, was Alan Jackson's song that he actually co-wrote with Randy Travis. She's Got the Rhythm and I Got the Blues. Just a great song. A great use of the blues with country. You could take that song as either, but it sounds perfectly well in the country charts. It's like, oh, what is this blues song doing on here? Country and the blues go together anyway. The blues go with any kind of music if you really you really stop to think about it. And then number one to end the month, and also went on to number one for the beginning of the next month, was Winona Judd, "I Saw the Light." This was, of course, Winona Judd, famously from The Daughter of the Judds, with her mom Naomi. Rest in peace to her. And of course, if that last name sounds familiar and you don't listen to music, you probably know Winona's sister, Ashley Judd, famous actress. But this is her singles run after the Judds quit touring because Naomi had developed hepatitis. I can't ever remember which letter it is for the hepatitis. Sorry, but she wasn't able to tour anymore. So her daughter started a solo career, and that was really big at the beginning. And this is just one of those string of number ones. But one album was released this month. It was Reba McEntire's "It's Your Call." I'd say one of her big albums. I mean, she's had a ton of them. I mean, this is her 18th studio album as it is. It went to number one on the country album chart and 3 times platinum. The singles from that album, there's 3 of them, is "Take It Back." Not one of my favorites, but it's definitely one of those, just like in-your-face type songs. It made it to number 5. My favorite one from the album, "The Heart Won't Lie," duet with Vince Gill, that went to number 1. And then the title track, "It's Your Call," went to number 5. And well, if you're wondering why it's the end of the year and I'm not doing like the greatest of this, the whole year, I've mentioned it before, but I'll say it again on here. Whenever I have a complete year, because I don't do these in order. Like last week I was on 1995. This week I'm on 92. I was on June of 1995 last week. Now I'm on December of 1992. But once I have, 12 episodes of 1 year, like say of 1992, once I get every month of that year done, I will do an additional episode of that year where I will go through different categories such as video games, although I've kind of done that one on this one, but especially like music. I'll give the top songs of the year. Wrestling, I'll give the awards for that. For TV, I'll talk about the top ratings of the year for different shows. Kind of put it all into one. I don't want to do a clips episode of highlights from the whole year. I always want to produce fresh content and not just repeats, because you can just go back and watch that stuff. Sorry, I'm rambling on. But we're going to take a look at the Sunday Nickelodeon lineup. I just chose a date at random, happened to be Sunday. This was December, so if I was watching this, although I probably wasn't, I don't think I was at Granny's at this time. Things hadn't gotten bad, so I hadn't wanted to go over there as much. Not that I didn't, I don't take that back. Not that I didn't want to go over there, it's just as things got worse and worse as the years went on there, I would just be like, please let me go to Granny's house. I need a break from this monster of a freaking stepdad. But at this time, we had just moved in, so I probably wasn't over there on a Sunday. So, and I know we didn't have cable then, so this will be a lineup that I didn't see live. But this is from December 13th of 1992. It's, you know, it's like a week or so before I turned 9. I don't look at these lineups beforehand just so I can give my comments on them. A lot of shows I've talked about before, like, I don't remember this, I don't remember this. So if I just mention a show and move on, it's because I don't remember it or don't have memories of it or anything. So, we've got The Adventures of Superman, classic Superman show. Then we got Donna Reed's show, Patty Duke show, America Tonight. Mr. Ed loved that one. The Talking Horse, always loved that show. Even as a kid, you know, a lot of these I never watched as a kid on Nick at Night. One, I'm supposed to be asleep, and two, they just didn't interest me at the time. But Mr. Ed was, I always loved that one. F Troop, The Lucy Show, I've watched that a few times. One of the versions of the I Love Lucy, Lucy Desi Comedy Hour, those three. Mary Tyler Moore Show. Then at 4 a.m., Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Now, I didn't get to watch that enough as a kid, but I've watched some of it since, and just great creepy show. Definitely love stuff like that. Dragnet, that's a funny cop show. Dick Van Dyke Show, The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, who's Bob Denver was in that one. Kids Court, I never watched that one. That seemed like that would be fun. Sort of like the People's Court, but for kids, obviously. The Little Bits, Eureka's Castle at 7. That was always one of my favorites. I was just watching that the other day. I was watching some classic Nickelodeon stuff. Just remembering all the stuff. The Moat Twins that always fought. The singing, the 3 singing stonefish. Then we get 7:30. We get Lassie, a classic one. You know, that's one of those ones that just everybody has seemed to watch. Like, I don't know about today's generation, but back then it's just, you know, Lassie's on, let's watch it. Great show. Count Duckula, never really watched, but Heathcliff at 8:30, one of my favorite cartoons of all time, Heathcliff the cat. In my mind, better than Garfield, but I'm not like, you know, saying, oh, Garfield sucks. Just my personal preference, I put Heathcliff number 1 of the Orange Cats, I guess, the Orange Cat lineup. Danger Mouse at 9, never seen that. I guess Heathcliff was after Danger Mouse. Well, no, technically Danger Mouse was after Heathcliff. Then we got Looney Tunes on Nickelodeon. Never go wrong with Looney Tunes. All those classics, Bugs Bunny, Tweety, Sylvester the Cat, just Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote were probably my favorite of the Looney Tunes. Then at 10, we've got our first Nicktoons sighting of the day, Doug, one of the original Nicktoons. In fact, we've got the 3 original Nicktoons here. They actually started in 1991, so this is the second year of Nicktoons. We start at 10 with Doug. 10:30, we've got Rugrats. For some of these, they list the episode names, and I literally just seen this episode 4 days ago. I chose Rugrats at random off of Paramount Plus, and it's A Visit from Lipschitz. I swear they always put the name of that doctor on there just to get parents to laugh. A Visit from Lipschitz and What the Big People Do. And it said new, so this is a new episode then. I just seen that literally, like I said, 3 or 4 days ago. And then at 11 o'clock, the other of the 3 original Nicktoons, the Ren and Stimpy Show. I can't believe Ren and Stimpy was on at 11 o'clock in the morning. That's crazy to think. And then at 11:30, we've got Salute Your Shorts. I love that show. Welcome Freshmen, Nickelodeon Wild Side Show, which I seen from watching a block of Nickelodeon is kind of like a nature show. And we've got 15, Nick News, which I definitely wasn't watching then. Then we got the Muppets Go to the Movies and The Secrets of the Muppets. So a big Muppet 2-hour block there. Again, like I said before, wasn't really into Muppets. 4 p.m. You can't do that on television. One of the not the first Nickelodeon show, but one of those earlier Nickelodeon shows, sketch comedy, just hilarious. Then we've got some game shows. We've got 4:30. We got Get the Picture, hosted by Mike O'Malley, more famously from Guts. But a great puzzle game for kids. And then at 5 o'clock, we got Nickelodeon's Wild Side Show again. So I thought it was game show hour. I misread the Wild Side. I thought was Wild and Crazy Kids. I was wrong about that. And we got 15 again. Then we've got got more games finally. We got Family Double Dare, my favorite version of Double Dare. It's where the two families, the mom and dad, and the two siblings, whether brothers, sisters, combination of both. Love the Family Double Dare. And then we got, right after that, Nickelodeon Guts, like I talked about before. Mike O'Malley was the host of that. Sort of our version of American Gladiators. Although I seen on that, the thing I watched the other day, it was game shows. And not just Nickelodeon, but other ones. But they actually had an American Gladiator, called American Gladiators 2000, but it was out in like 1995. They used the 2000 to try to sound futuristic for a lot of things, even before it was the year 2000. But we get Looney Tunes on Nickelodeon again. And then we get a Muppet Family Christmas. Obviously, the Muppets were huge on Nickelodeon this time. They didn't have Muppet Babies on this day, though. But a huge Sunday night. And then Nickelodeon was over then at 9. Get to bed, kids. Time for Mork and Mindy. Then the Dick Van Dyke Show. Alfred Hitchcock Presents at 10. Back then in 1992, I was probably asleep by 10 if we'd even had Nickelodeon. Wasn't like later times. Now sometimes I'm not asleep till 6 in the morning, and then I get up at like 10, just a little bit tired. Lucy Show again, Mary Tyler Moore Show, and then we end with Dragnet. But yeah, that's Nickelodeon in a nutshell at the end of 1992. Definitely had a huge Muppets theme on that Sunday. One other thing to talk about is the TGIF lineup, which was big then. TGIF, of course, was every Friday night on ABC. At this time, Family Matters started it out, which was their huge show. They were in season 4. The only episode they had all December was a Christmas one. It's called It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Urkel. Is where Laura's visited by her guardian angel and basically has her switch places with Urkel. Like, Urkel becomes like Eddie, her brother's brother, and she has to live like Urkel and see, because she originally I wish Urkel could see what it's like being part of this family and have to deal with Urkel. But then she had to see what it's like being Urkel. So, by the end of the episode, she's has a better appreciation for him. But since it's a Christmas episode, it's oh, this one don't count. So, going back to being annoyed by Urkel the next time. But show number 2 was Step by Step. They were in their second season, really hitting their stride. Show number 3 was Dinosaurs. They were in season 3. Love Dinosaurs. This was their last year on ABC. But they still had 2 more seasons left. Dinosaurs with Baby Sinclair. Not the mama, not the mama. And then the last show of TGIF was Camp Wilder. It only lasted 1 season. I've never watched it. Obviously didn't have high enough ratings, I don't think, to keep going. But, yeah, that was TGIF. Of course, my favorite period of TGIF was later on with Boy Meets World, but that wasn't 1992, obviously. Now we're going to talk a little bit about wrestling. Wasn't too much going on. It was the end of the year, but WCW did have their so-called biggest show of the year, WCW Starrcade, and this was the Battle Bowl, if I can talk, the Battle Bowl and the Lethal Lottery, the second one, on December 28th. And reportedly, this show was so bad that the guy running WCW at the time, Bill Watts, was fired almost immediately after. I like the concept, but I mean, I guess the show was just so boring and just so old-fashioned that they were trying to get, compete with the WWF, which was, the new generation really hadn't completely started yet, but it was getting there. It was after Hogan was still there, but barely. He was on his way out the next year. But anyway, the concept of Battle Bowl and the Lethal Lottery. Battle Bowl is where, or I should say the Lethal Lottery at first, is where they take names and they choose teams. And it's funny how a lot of these teams ended up being, not all of them, but some of them ended up being people that hate each other, ended up on a team somehow. But basically they had to work together because out of it was I think 4 matches or something like that, or maybe 6. Maybe there was 8 matches No, there's 4 matches in this one. Anyway, ended up having 16 people compete in the tournament. And basically, the tag teams drawn at random. But the winners of the matches would go into this final battle royal, and they'd fight for the Battle Bowl ring. Not even like a... I think it did... I can't remember if it came with a title shot or not. Anyway, it was a neat concept. It's just... It kind of fell flat on this night, it seemed. Because they also had another tournament final that had nothing to do with this during the show. Sting defeated Big Van Vader for the King of Cable tournament final. Don't ask me. I tried to look. I can't find what the King of Cable was supposed to... Are you the King of Cable TV? You like to walk on cable wires? I don't know. But anyway, Sting defeated Big Van Vader. And then the Great Muta winning Battle Bowl. Obviously, he won his tag team match and then won the Battle Royal, last eliminating Barry Windham. But a couple title changes that took place in the month of December. Big Van Vader defeated Ron Simmons for the WCW World Heavyweight title at a house show on December 30th. And then another one's not really a title. I guess it is a change. But the WCW US title was stripped from Rick Rude for being injured. Dustin Rhodes would go on and win the vacant title the next month. But yeah, not a ton going on in wrestling. You know, that's supposed to be WCW's biggest show is Starrcade. But, you know, just for some reason, you know, Bill Watts was just... He was the old-fashioned guy. You know, he didn't want people doing moves off the top rope. If you get thrown over the top rope, it's disqualification. I mean, just stuff from a bygone era. And then, but at the same time, he took away padding from the floor. So it's like, I guess he wanted people to get injured. I mean, if I see someone get slammed on, even on padding on the floor, it still looks painful. It's when they pull it back, it's like extra, you know. The fact that they didn't have it at all was just stupid in my opinion. But anyway, especially with freaking Cactus Jack there doing all his moves. Probably took years off his life. But being December, because it's hard, I wanted to talk about this like on every episode. It's just hard to find data, but I'm going to talk about some toys from the time. It's hard to find the top selling toys that come out during this time or during any time if it's not December, because you know there's no like, doesn't seem to be a list where it keeps track of it. It's only around December that you find like the top selling, because obviously that big push for Christmas. You know, you got the Black Friday the day after Thanksgiving, and then it's, you know, shop. It's what Christmas has become to some people. But I just looked up a few different sources to find some of the top selling toys around this time. Number one seems to be Troll Dolls. Those were huge then. I think I may have owned a couple, just I don't even remember how I got them. It's not like I played with them. I just remember, like, even as a kid, even if you didn't play with Troll Dolls, you seemed to own several of them for some reason. Polly Pocket's another one I never owned, but I always found it a pretty cool concept. You know, you got this whole like little world in this like little fold out pocket thing. But X-Men action figures were really big around this time. Of course, the animated series on Fox was huge too. A toy I don't remember: Hot Wheels Streaks Test Tracks. Streaks, not streets. Streaks Test Tracks. Apparently, they were like these levitating vehicles, so they didn't even have wheels, I guess, even though they're Hot Wheels. But apparently, they like levitated. I don't know. I couldn't find anything about them. You know, maybe I should look into it more. But California Roller Baby, which is like a baby, like this baby, but on roller skates, and not the Barbie on roller skates, but the that got banned because of the spark shooting out. This one just had, you know, you just push this one around. This one didn't go on its own. One that I found fascinating that I was just sounds like our generation. The Grape Escape game. Apparently it's this board game, but you make the figures out of this like purple Play-Doh. You basically making these like grape looking action figure type things, but they're made out of Play-Doh. And you got to go around this board avoiding obstacles. And these obstacles are meant to like disfigure and like maim your character. Like you got to make it around this thing or it chops its head off or something. Does that not our freaking generation? Morbid type of game that would like would have caused outrage generations prior and generations now. We were a weird freaking generation, I tell you. Case in point, the next one, creepy crawlers. We made bugs and creepy things. Where other generations may have ran from or went ew or killed them, we made them. And then the final one is, obviously I never had this, Barbie Golden Dream Motorhome. Where it's not a trailer, but like, you know, like an RV type thing. You know, I'm sure that was a very cool toy for people that had Barbie dolls. But right now we want to get into some commercials, and like I said, I've done this already before. I'm just gonna throw it to the video. But a couple Christmas commercials on here. But this is from December 11th of 1992. It is from a station WJLA. Not sure exactly what. If they're affiliated with a network, but they're from Virginia. And these commercials aired during an episode of Jeopardy. I don't know when Jeopardy aired in Virginia, but in Cincinnati we always had Jeopardy Monday through Friday. Well, Monday through Saturday we had Wheel of Fortune at 7. Saturday at 7:30 we had Cash Explosion. It was like a game show for the Ohio Lottery. It was really cool. They still do the Cash Explosion game show. But throughout the week at 7:30, Monday through Friday, was Jeopardy. So like I said, I don't know if Virginia had their Jeopardy on at 7:30 every night or when they had it on, but these are the commercials from that time, and we'll go to that now. Alright, we've got these commercials here. Let's get into these. Sorry about the video quality. They are on tape. And the screen's a little small, so here we go. Gotta be a Toys R Us ad. Yep. I never really got to go to, if the sound cuts out or not, I don't know. Sometimes it cuts out on my headphones. Yeah, Super Mario Brothers 2, my favorite. I never really got to go to Toys R Us much as a kid.
Just bring in any competitor's ad and we'll match the price, guaranteed.
We got here the lottery. Again, this is Virginia.
Good evening.
They're going to pick for the lottery.
And welcome to the Virginia Lottery's live.
Let's see what the numbers were on December 9th, 1992. My favorite number is 6 for some reason, so there's got to be a 6 in here.
Number 9.
Ah, 9. Close. Turn it upside down.
3, and our last number 0930 is tonight's
Guarantee you if you won on those back in 1992, you probably done run through the money.
Our first number tonight is,
There we go, a 6.
our second number is number 5. Our third number,
Growing up in Cincinnati, I always watched the
4, 6, 5,
the
and
local
4. Tonight's winning tick for
Ohio Lottery and the Cash Explosion that came on Saturday nights. I love that game show.
Winning numbers up on the screen. Be sure and join us for Lotto tonight at 11:20 p.m.
Never played the Ohio Lottery though, because never lived there after 18 where I had the money.
Banning infant walkers, the story at 11.
Again, Virginia news.
On a night like this, there is only one way to warm up. Celestial Seasonings Mandarin Orange Spice.
Tea. I've never liked tea at all.
Even better.
Don't even like regular tea.
Jam-packed with natural herbs and spices. Taste the tangy orange and spicy cloves.
My wife likes those hot teas.
Celestial Seasonings herb teas. Nature makes
Not orange though. She don't like orange flavor or anything, other than actual oranges.
We were on our way home for Thanksgiving.
Dodge Caravan. Hey, I got a Dodge Grand Caravan 2007 out there. Obviously, this ain't no 2007.
And the sweat. And I said he's gonna lose it. And he did. He crashed. I spun around and crashed again.
With the Dodge minivan, we totaled our vehicle, but we didn't lose a child.
With over 3 million sold.
That's definitely a way to,
part of more lives than
like,
all
yeah,
other
car crashes happen, but with ours, you won't die.
Eddie Murphy's back. Bigger and
Eddie
better
Murphy,
than ever.
all-time favorite movie coming to America.
Thank you.
Good Morning America raids. This is the Eddie Murphy of trading places in 48 hours.
You mean Coming to America?
His best performance since Beverly Hills Cop. A zany, irreverent laugh-a-thon 10.
I don't think I've ever seen this movie.
Don't miss Eddie Murphy.
What is it?
In the comedy hit of the season, The Distinguished Gentleman.
Never even heard of that. I need to watch that.
Theater near you.
It looks funny. Definitely love Eddie Murphy.
Crystal Clear Amoco Ultimate. What isn't? All other premium gasoline. What's
Quit barking.
Amoco Ultimate is the only premium refined an extra step to remove harmful impurities other premiums leave in. Impurities
Obviously an oil commercial. You hear my dogs in the background going.
The air. What's clear? If you use premium, now you have a reason to switch. Crystal Clear. Crystal Clear Amoco Ultimate.
Do they still have clear
Are
oils?
you ready to save for Christmas? Well, we're ready for you.
Obviously Christmas time. It's the whole theme of this podcast almost.
Prices on a few things at Walmart.
Walmart. I wouldn't have guessed it was a Walmart ad till they said that.
We have low prices on
Now I see the
everything at
vest.
Walmart.
I remember those old patches and the old name tags.
So you don't have to shop.
My mom worked at Walmart for a while. Another store I never really got to go to much as a kid.
Low price, holidays and always.
We were normally shopping at Kmart. There's more of those around. Now, the roles have reversed.
Girl had her tonsils out when she was 4, broke her wrist, and had an allergic reaction to a bee sting the next year. She's had her eyes checked, been treated for a few bad colds, and just last week had her yearly checkup. And through it all, her parents have never had to fill out a claim form, meet a deductible, or pay a single doctor bill. With group health, it's all taken care of.
Too bad it's not that way anymore.
Got the giving fever too. Well, shoot, all this non-perishable food for what?
Local news.
Safeway's the place now through December 24th.
Our local news, especially Channel 5 in Cincinnati, did the Toys for Tots drive all the time during Christmas time. We got Hangman. Just play that game all the time. It's simple. You just guess a letter. If you get it wrong, you basically hang yourself if you don't get it right. Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra. Well, I'm too late. I guess I get home.
It's your money.
Them old cars used to look like used to be the square cars, and guarantee if any of them hit one of the cars today, they would destroy it. When they used to make cars out of steel and metal, not fiberglass. Jif peanut butter.
Wow. Even on 3 hours sleep, I can tell the difference.
I love the Jif chocolate peanut butter. That stuff is good.
Peanut here. You're right. My little guy deserves his special peanut butter.
Back then, you basically had your creamy peanut butter and your crunchy peanut butter. Pretty much all. You might have honey roasted. Some brands. Now they got cookie butter, peanut butter.
427 species of birds and more than 100,000 glaciers. But you'll find there's just one way to experience it. Princess. Because there's no place on Earth like a
Cruise ship.
And no cruise line like Princess.
Never got to go on one. I'd like to one day. Of course, I'd be scared, but not as much as I'd be scared as an airplane. From $749. That was expensive
He
then.
was the greediest man who ever lived.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Until tonight, he met someone extraordinary.
Muppet Christmas Carol. I never liked any of the Muppet stuff other than Muppet Babies. I just never got into it. The old Muppet Show or any of the Muppet movies. Just
Creepy and kind of...
like I said, other than Muppet Babies, I never got into the Muppets. I know that's a big part of a lot of people's childhoods. The Muppets.
Crime is down and shopping is up. Tomorrow at 5, find out what some Northern Virginia police officers are doing to stop shoplifting and theft during this holiday season. Is your favorite mall parking lot safe for late?
Almost wish I could watch that just to see what the latest security technology was back in 1992. I remember this commercial. Don't remember what it's about other than food. Salad bar.
A juicy sirloin steak and our all-you-can-eat salad
Just
bar.
Ponderosa?
Two big favorites together for a short time. For just $7.99.
$7.99 steak and salad bar. Man. Sizzler. I've never been there. There isn't one anywhere around here. I don't even think they still exist.
Jesus loves to rock.
Steve Martin, I don't know what this movie is. Yeah, $7.99 steak and salad bar. Those were the days.
I'm obvious.
This Christmas, Jonas Nightingale.
Don't recognize this movie.
Now let's go get some empty lines.
A little meaning. Steve Martin, Deborah Winger, Lee.
Never even heard of it. It's like the Eddie Murphy movie.
Rated PG-13.
You'll find the more you know me, the more movies I don't know.
Christmas is a magical time. The kids are fast asleep. Santa's on his way. And the gifts you can't wait to get will soon be under the tree. Like AT&T gifts from Electric Avenue Montgomery Ward. Right now, this AT&T remote...
$40 for a machine that'll you can leave messages on. $70 for a cordless phone.
So make this Christmas a magical time for your family.
Nowadays, you can get
AT&T gifts from Electric
a little phone fits in your pocket. It does both of that and 50,000 things other more.
Running weekly real estate show in America here on Channel 7 at
I never seen that
12:30
obviously,
p.m. Sunday.
but our local channel had the show on like Sunday mornings where they had houses for sale. Regis.
This 24-hour news source update is brought to you by the Virginia Lottery.
Good evening, I'm Jack Bowden. Rescue workers say they've got no response to signals aimed at 8 miners trapped in a Virginia coal mine.
That's not good.
And 3
Oh, that's where it ends. Sorry, but just yeah, definitely a lot of great commercials there. Obviously, I don't know the Virginia stuff. Never been to Virginia, but I'm sure that there's probably some people out there that are watching this that was their local channel, and yeah, I'm sure we all have our local channels we always remember fondly as kids. Let's get back to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed some of those commercials. Like the Virginia stuff, I didn't, obviously never watched, but I try to find some local Cincinnati commercials that are a little harder to find from the exact month that I need. I've seen some on there that I'll definitely be using for future months and years. But yeah, that was just some of those. One other thing I want to talk about before we go, being in a Christmas month, I touched on these a little bit during my Christmas bonus episode I did with my wife back in December, where we talked about Christmas memories. But I just want to talk about some of my favorite Christmas TV shows. In the future on December's, I might talk about my favorite Christmas songs, favorite Christmas movies, and stuff. But this month, I'm focusing on Christmas TV shows. Those are like TV specials, not like episodes of regular shows. I may do a month on that. But just my all-time favorite Christmas, I guess you call them specials, is Mickey's Christmas Carol. It's a little 30-minute thing. For some reason, as a kid, I always thought this was a longer thing. But as an adult, I was like, really? Only 30 minutes? Because it moves by quick. But it's Mickey's Christmas Carol. Try to say classic and came out crassic. Classic story by Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol, which you've seen a commercial for a version of the Muppet version. But this was Disney's. Mickey Mouse played Bob Cratchit, and then Scrooge McDuck played Scrooge, naturally. It's funny, I thought for the longest time that Scrooge McDuck only became a character because of the Scrooge. Apparently he'd been a character before then. But anyway, it's that classic Christmas Carol, but told through Mickey Mouse characters, from Disney. That, for some reason, is always my favorite one. I have to watch that one every year. Frosty the Snowman, that's definitely a classic. Everybody knows that. The snowman that comes to life by the magic hat, and he's got to get to the North Pole so he don't melt. And going hand in hand with that one's always Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which I found out was I've known it for a while now, but I know at some point I found out that it was I think it was Macy's that created that. That's why most of the songs talking about reindeers or mentioning reindeers don't mention Rudolph, because it was kind of like a Macy's creation. But I always consider Rudolph a reindeer. There's, like I said, some stories they leave him out because I guess they can't legally use his name, but everybody knows that one. It's, Rudolph had a red nose, so he was, he went off with the elf that wanted to be a dentist, because that was just so unheard of. But they went to the Island of the Misfit Toys, and in the end, Santa needs Rudolph to be able to see, use his nose. So, great messages in these things too, not just entertainment. And then Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which is one of many Santa Claus origin stories, but my favorite. the Burgermeister band toys, and I'm guessing Germany, and Kris Kringle was apparently adopted by these like people, and he was given the last name of Claus, and basically just the whole, basically where Christmas came from, you know, a version of it. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Dr. Seuss, of course, classic. Didn't care for the Jim Carrey movie, refused to watch that newest computer animated, whatever the crap it is, the newer one, refused to watch that. I prefer the old cartoon. It's my favorite. A Garfield Christmas, where they go to, why can't I remember his name? The main guy on Garfield. I can't think of his name right now. They go to his family's like farm for Christmas. I was gonna say Odie, but that's the dog. Why can't I remember his name? John, that's his name. I was gonna wait till I found it. I didn't want to just cheat and stop the video and go look it up. Like, yeah, John. No, John is his name. They went to his family farm for Christmas. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Not as well known these days, but it's about like, it was basically the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, you know, that poem. I think it was Samuel Clements, I think, came up with that one. But I remember the mice had to fix the clock. I ain't seen it forever, so I don't remember all the details. And then another one that wasn't out at this time, came out a couple years later, just out of the sheer craziness of his grandma got run over by a reindeer. It's basically the song, except they extend it to a half-hour episode, so they're adding all this crazy stuff. But just that one's a guilty pleasure. But in the future, I'll be talking about Christmas movies and music and all kinds of stuff. Our next episode, though, will be episode number 25. I can't believe we've got 25 of these coming, or done as of next week. We'll be actually staying in the same year, but going back, we're as far into this year as we can get. We're going to go back as far as we can get into the year. Going to be January 1992, so almost a full year before. This will be our 5th trip through 1992. I was 8 years old at this time, in 2nd grade. Barely been in Mount Carmel for a while. That was where we were at before we moved to Norwood. And just a lot of great memories. I'll talk about playing the original Nintendo with Josh and some of the games we played. Back when, it's funny to think a year later, life is not simple anymore. But back when life was simpler, you always think that, You always think of the time period as simple. But then if you go back and examine the time period like I've been doing, like 1999 is vastly different from 1994 even. And even if you get looking at like the vast difference between 95 and 94 even, just, back when you're a teenager, of course these days, they seem to run together. There's some days I forget 2015 was literally 10 years ago. It seems like it was just a couple. But that's the way time goes, and our time here is up. Some of you are like, oh, thank you. Please let me go. If you've watched it this far, thank you. Whether you're watching here on Facebook or YouTube or listen on Spotify like my brother Josh does, you'll find this and the main bonus episodes of the month on Spotify. This stuff like the video games and the watch-alongs is not on there because, it's just I just put the audio on there. I can put the video on there too, but, people are going to watch the video. They're going to watch it on YouTube or my Facebook. They're not really going to go to Spotify for a video. Some might, but I put the audio stuff on there. So that's why the main stuff is on there and the bonus. Unless I ever do a bonus episode that involves some video. But speaking of bonus, like I said, the wrestling one's coming out Monday next week. But April's right around the corner, and for April, I'm doing something with music. Probably talking about the history of, my love of music, and going in the sticking with the theme of the 90s, going into a lot of 90s artists and songs. I'm not going to be playing them on there because I don't want to get it blocked, because it for sure will. But yeah, just going to be a lot of music memories. I'll have to come up with exactly what I'm going to talk about for that episode. But I just want to thank you guys so much for joining me. It's a real treat to actually be able to do these videos, talk about memories, because who knows, there'll be a day where I might not remember things so well. it'd be great to just, even for myself, to go back and watch this. And if it inspires anybody to do their own kind of thing, that's kind of what happened. I've seen people, you know, talking about the 90s so much. It's like, one day I was like, I'm going to do a podcast about this. And literally the next day I did it, you know, because in the past I just like, oh, I'm going to do this idea, and then I don't do it. I've really been just going for it recently, you know. I get an idea, I'll do it. And, you know, it ends up either taking off, and by taking off I don't mean being popular, just taking off to where I enjoy doing it, or it's something like, you know. But this has been a lot of fun. This will always be my main show, and who knows what will happen once I get to the end of the 90s, like, you know, finish every month, and then do all those year-end review of each year. I don't know where I'll go. I don't know if I'll go into the 2000s, into the 80s, which I don't remember as much as the 90s, but I can still talk about some of this stuff. Maybe I'll turn it into something else. Maybe I'll do full episodes on a certain show. I don't know. Just any suggestions on that? You know, where to go once I've covered the whole 90s? You know, do I do other decades? Do I just pick a random year in history? We're going to look at the time Abraham Lincoln was born. Obviously, I wouldn't do anything like before I was born. But, you know, where do I go after this? I still got a lot farther to go. You know, I haven't even done a full year's worth of a year yet, so. Anyway, I've done a full year's worth of talking on this video. I'm sorry. I'll see you guys next time. This has been Tales from the 90s, and we'll see you then. From the
Tales from the 90s never die. In our hearts they testify. VCRs and mixtape spins. Wherever